Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Pro Wellness Initiative podcast. This is your host, Brandy Hollaway. And today I'm excited to have Sagnite Castro with me. She is the founder of Plentitude, and she is a light worker, but I think that's not doing her justice. However, we're going to let her dive in and introduce herself because she does so many incredible things. So, Sagnite, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here. And I appreciate the introduction. And you're right. I think that light worker sums up what I do, but essentially my services are many, from an end of life doula to energy healing, such as Reiki, sound healing, and to spiritual coaching.
I love
So
that.
essentially,
So
those are
dive
the
into
things that.
that, dive into each of those a little bit, because I think a lot of people may even think they know what that means, but I know just from meeting you in person and just really being around your energy, let's break that down a little bit more. So before we really talk about your services, one of the things I really want to touch on is, why did you decide to choose this path?
It sounds super silly. Excuse me. It sounds so silly, but I feel like this path chose me. So, for example, Reiki has been following me for years. I lived in Los Angeles back in 2005 and decided to dive into massage therapy school, and that's where I learned Reiki, right? And so it didn't take years later for me to put it into practice. And so Reiki has helped me so very much in every aspect of my life that I feel that now it's time for me to share that, because I know I'm not the only one that struggles with certain policies or certain systems that are put into place that are very strict and rigid. And I never would fit into them. I was always asking why, and I was always seeking, and I could never find an answer that satisfied me, right? That made me the person that I am now.
Okay.
And so in that seeking, I found curanderismo, which is light work, I guess.
Okay.
And it deals with spirit. It deals with us as a trinity, mind, body, and spirit. And it incorporates that. And what it does, it allows you to build a philosophy in life based on your power, on your strength, on remembering why it is that we're here and what are we here to do. You
And I
know,
feel like
is it
so many people are lost on that right now. So many people really could use that guidance, and I'm assuming so that's kind of what you're doing, is you're guiding them to find that for themselves, right?
right? And it's a path of self-discovery. And in that path of self-discovery, you need certain tools, right? In order to succeed, in order to remember that you are this being of love and light, that you're an infinite being here to grow and to learn and to share your gifts with others. And so that's essentially what I do. I kind of help you get your step, your that pep back in your step, right? In other words, and that's even towards the end of life. Because as an end of life doula, my services are not for the people that are like actively dying or the people that have already passed, but it's for the people that are here now living with or without a terminal diagnosis. Because death will come and knock at your door at any moment.
Oh,
And
interesting. Okay. So I didn't, and I wanted to really dive into that because when I met you at the event, I heard you say end of life doula, and the only experience I've had is with palliative care for children with, fatal diseases and cancers and things. So, I'm 52, and I will say going into my 50s that obviously this is something I think about more, and I have younger children. So, I think to myself, what if I die tomorrow? What if I, die in 20 years? So walk me through how you work with someone as an end of life doula. Like when you say they don't necessarily have to have, of course, a terminal disease or anything like that. What does that look like?
it's for people who are ready to dive into their mortality. And
Oh,
that's at any stage in life,
okay.
right? To come to terms that our vehicle is going to disintegrate. I mean, that's kind of the purpose of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
and being okay with that. And then understanding that fear, that anxiety that it'll trigger, right? Because a lot of the times we decide not to even look at the topic of death because of the
Yeah.
fear and anxiety that it produces. But when you face it and you look at it and you realize that the time that you have now is precious, so make the best out of it, right?
Mhm.
Live fully, live plentifully, and understanding who you are and what makes you trigger and why it makes you trigger, so that
Yeah.
you're able to live life knowing that the day is going to come. So you prepare. There's end of life doulas that will strictly deal with, for example, education and advocacy. There's end of life doulas that will deal with like the legal portion of it, like preparing for it, like your estate and your living wills and, all of the paperwork that's attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's end of life doulas that will exclusively, help with the care, right? Being there with the family and being that support system to the family and to the person that's going through that process. And so being an end of life doula is to me, it's like, think about it like medicine almost. It has different branches, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so each doula will provide something very specific. And what I provide is that like spiritual portion of end of life, the spiritual portion of life, period.
Okay. All right. So just kind of diving into that a little bit more, ideally, who do you work with? I mean, I know you could technically work with anyone, and when we talk in marketing talk, of course we say, you could work with anyone, but everyone's not your client. Ideally, you probably enjoy working with a specific, type of person that, or they're looking for a specific type of result or transformation or transition. So who would that be?
Really, anybody, I do have an ideal, that person that doesn't find a way out. Like you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, even
Yeah.
though sometimes things are fantastic. And just to give you a little insight, I had a business, it was in the medical field, and my business was going well. My relationship was going well. I couldn't complain about my family, but I was not happy. I was not happy. I was miserable. And then it started translating physically. So I knew something had to change, but there was nothing out there that I could hold on to or that I could try and follow so that I could feel satisfied because nothing was wrong. And so
Interesting.
these are the people that I want to talk to. These are the people I want to walk besides. Again, if you have a terminal illness and you realize that, there's a lot of things that are pending and you're not happy and you don't have peace, let's talk. Or if you're somebody that's healthy and by all means has everything, but you're still unhappy and you're still not fulfilled, come talk to me. Let's
Yeah.
walk together and you're going to do the work. At the end of the day, I'm here and I'm just walking side by side,
I
right?
love
And we're talking and we're learning. But the person that needs to like look within and meditate and learn new things or unlearn things that no longer serve you, that job is yours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like, let's embark on this journey together. Let's elevate our vibration. Let's kind of like clean house, because what we have inside, we reflect. What we have inside, we attract. So let's clean that house internally so that you're able to reflect and attract the things that you want.
Okay. So let me ask you, play a little devil's advocate here, and ask you a question kind of along the lines of what makes you different than other people that say they're doing the same things? Because there's always something about that person, and also what makes you qualified, right? Because I think a big thing these days is people are so overloaded from social media, getting people saying that they are an expert in this or they do specific things. How do we know? Like, we need to be able to find this information, which is one of the main reasons we really founded Pro Wellness Initiative, was so that we could truly vet, those wellness professionals and be able to say to the wellness seeker, this person can help you, right?
Yeah. So what makes me different? I think everybody that is like a holistic practitioner is different because the perspective that we're in is going to be unique. The truth is going to be the same, right? Like talking about self-love and talking about all of those fantastic things. So the truth is the same, but the perspective and the outlook is going to be different. And so I am a Native American woman, and I grew up in the border and I traveled throughout the United States. And so I have been exposed to many cultures and many traditions within each city, right? I'm a sociologist from the University of Texas of El Paso, so go Miners. But as a sociologist, I have always been so intrigued about all of these subcultures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that every subculture seems to be dealing with a burnout.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
That's a huge subject to dive into. I think even for another podcast is people understanding the different ways that burnout occurs and being able to recognize that in their life.
right. And so, I was introduced to INELDA, which INELDA is the Association for End of Life Doulas. It's an international association. And I became certified through them. The end of life community here in Richmond is so close and so like willing to help and teach and learn from each other that I feel more than blessed. But I have that backup from Inelda. And again, my degree is in sociology and spiritual studies. So in terms of academically, I have something to show, but in terms of my reputation and who I am and how I work, I mean, talking to the people that I walk beside, it is important for me because what I have is my word. And
Right.
what I have is what I give, right? And so I feel that I work from a place of love. And
Right.
I feel like it
Okay.
translates in what I do.
Okay. Another question I always like to ask the guests would be, what is a resource, a book, a podcast, or something that you would recommend to people that wanted to learn more about, end of life, doing the studies on their own, or what it's like to work with someone like you? Do you have a resource that you would recommend?
Yes, so I think a really great book is it's a series of books. It's called The Law of One, The Raw Material.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, if you Google it, that's how you have to Google it. It's a channeled book. And so if you're in this like world of spirituality, you know that that is basically a book that was inspired by beings of light.
Okay.
And so this channeled book goes through and explains who we are as beings of light or energy. And they dive into the process of our chakras and what it looks like when they're balanced, when they're imbalanced, and the connection. And so, as a Reiki healer, it has a lot of great information in there that breaks it down really, really well in terms of what Reiki is and what its purpose is. And then, as an end of life doula, the book goes through our mortality and through our infinite being that we are and through the different phases that we go through as human beings. And so for me, that book is the cornerstone of my cosmovision. And so if you want to know what it's like to work with me or somebody like me, that's a great book to start with.
Okay. All right. Do you know the author?
It's literally the raw material. The author is a messenger of the one infinite creator.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's a channel book.
Is it a kind of a compilation of other people that have come in and added to this as a kind of a study, almost a case study on the
It's
work they've seen? Okay.
correct. It's a series of 5 books.
Okay.
And so in all of those books, like you said, it's a series with different topics and it's
Okay.
just a lot of really great information.
Okay. Great. Is there anything else that you would want the listeners to know about you as a light worker in end of life coaching, end of life doula. Was there anything else that you'd want to leave them with?
Yes, I mean, my service or essentially what I offer
Mhm.
um, can be applied to any setting. It's non-dogmatic, it's universal. And so if it's from, I have been in doctor's offices providing Reiki, to patients with a specific diagnosis, or to people who just suffer anxiety of being in a medical setting. Do you know what I mean? And I go directly to people's homes and we have that one-on-one. And so
Amazing.
whatever your life looks like, make some time and we'll make it happen. Do you
I
know what
love,
I mean?
yeah, I love
So
that.
so there's no excuse to say I don't have time today. It's commit and let's do it.
And I've recorded a few podcasts, and one of the things that I really keep hearing that I love hearing is that there are so many of you now that are being welcomed into doctors' offices. They're becoming aware that, once again, the short amount of time they get to work with someone, and while they, do have all of the knowledge and the skill set, that patient is going to need a lot more outside of what they can offer, whether it be time or knowledge. And so I love that, more doctors are becoming open to collaborating, with spiritual healers and wellness, other wellness professionals. And I think that's so important for people to actually, that's healthcare versus sick care, right? I really think that's where healthcare and wellness comes in, is them understanding that, we need many forms of support, not just popping a pill. For me, that's kind of always been my mission. Is I can proudly say, at this point in my life, I've maybe not the healthiest, but I like the fact that I'm not on medications, and I've tried to do those things and, find, if I can, a natural or organic route, and having the support of other doctors and professionals that look for that as well, because we know we've seen the demise the last few years specifically with all of those things. So I love that you are connecting with other, doctors and groups. So I hope that continues to grow. That is definitely a mission of ours as well.
And I appreciate it. I think you're absolutely right. Like there has to be a good merger, a good relationship between, the holistic practitioner and, Western medicine,
Mhm.
because at least we're starting to realize that there is a connection between that trinity, which is our mind, our body, and our spirit. And paying attention to that and seeing how, healing flourishes. And
Yeah,
just to be very clear, when I say healing, I'm not saying like if somebody's terminally ill, they're no longer ill, but
right.
I mean healing. Do you know what I mean? Healing, feeling peace and feeling love and knowing that regardless, at the end of the day, everything is going to be okay.
Hmm. Yeah, so
You
important.
know?
So important. Well, thank you. So before we end, I would love for you to tell everyone how they can find you if they would like to connect with you.
Thank you very much. You can email me at Sagnite at plenitude.love. Or you can find me on social media, which is Reiki Plentitude. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, even YouTube. So if you want to connect, those are the best ways of doing it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you joining me today, and I can't wait to learn more from you, that you are local and I get to see more of you in Richmond. So, I'm assuming that you can work with someone anywhere, or do they need to be local to you?
No, I do have some clients that are in Texas. And so virtual is fine. And it's winter time. So a lot of people, don't feel well or prefer to have those like virtual settings.
Mhm.
We can definitely do something virtual.
Great, great. Well, thank you, Sagnite. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye bye.